was sitting out on my deck one evening, and it was nice and quiet out here in the swamp. And I start hearing this whoop, 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 of a helicopter. And it really didn't catch my attention right away because no big deal. But we are out in the swamp, so it's not something you hear very often. Well, next thing I know, my brother in law comes ripping down the dirt road, tearing into our driveway. And I started paying attention then. Well, he jumps out of his old pickup truck, parks it like it's hot, and comes running up to the deck. Well, I start yelling at him like, come on, dude, you're not leading the cops here again. I've told you about this. And he's like, no, no, no. I've really stepped in it this time. I need your help. Well, he had been up in town and had been working on the brakes on his truck. Well, when he went out to test them, they failed, and the throttle on his truck stuck wide open. Well, he said he went on a tornado tear through town, drove through the football field of the high school at halftime during the football game. Says he doesn't remember a whole lot other than the cheerleaders throwing their pom-poms at him. And I asked him, I said, anybody get hurt? And he said no, but the sheriff department helicopter was sitting there at the game. And so it took off right away and started following him. And that's what I'm hearing. So I took a deep breath, made a decision I was probably going to regret, and I hollered in the house for my 16-year-old son to come out and help. Well, as the sheriff's department starts closing in on us, I can still hear this helicopter circling up above us. But for now, we're good because I live out in the swamp, and there's a tree canopy with these big old oak trees over us with Spanish moss hanging everywhere, so they can't see us. But the first thing we got to do is get his truck out of here. So I tell my 16-year-old son to throw his little mini dirt bike up in the back of it, drive down the road here about 2 miles, and park it in the ditch down where the Y is. I told him also, take the mini bike out and ride it over to where our fishing spot is using the back trail. I made sure he had his phone with him and sent him on his way. Well, my wife comes out and she asked me and her brother if we had a plan. And of course we said no. And she called us morons and she went back inside. So now I start getting a little bit more of the story. I guess, when his brakes went bad, the throttle stuck, and he's flying through town. It's a miracle nobody got hurt. And I asked him, did you think about just turning the key off, letting it slow down? And he says, no, didn't think of that. Would that have made the brakes start working? Well, we stand and watch sheriff's deputies zipping by the house down the dirt road, because at this point, they don't know who he is, and they haven't started connecting the dots yet. So I can hear my son on his dirt bike making his way back through the swamp, so he's in the clear. And where I had him leave the truck at, there was an opening in the tree canopy. So the helicopter had gone over there and was leading all these sheriff's deputies right to it. But it wasn't going to be long until somebody was going to be knocking on my door. So we had to do something. And I came up with the greatest idea I've had in a while. I took him in the house and we put a costume on him. He didn't like it. My wife thought it was pretty funny. But I told him he deserved it for being a moron. And we went out and got in my Accord and started heading out of the neighborhood. Well, as we get up, we don't even make it to the main road, and the sheriff's deputies had left one to stop traffic and check cars coming out of this area. So as we pulled up, I rolled the driver's window down, and the deputy there asked my name. I told him, and he looked over at my brother-in-law, nodded, tipped his hat, said, ma'am, and waved us on. I had taken my brother-in-law, put a wig, lipstick, sunglasses, and a dress on him. Yeah, we dressed him up like a girl, and it worked. So as we make our way back up into town, We're laughing the whole way.